Hello everyone, Steve here. If you spent any time recently around people in their late 40s or 50s, you probably noticed something. More and more people are talking about retiring early. Not necessarily because they've won the lottery or suddenly, become wealthy, but because they've reached the point where they simply cannot imagine doing another 15 or 20 years of the same thing. It's a conversation that seems to come up everywhere. You're chatting to an old friend over coffee. You're standing at the sidelines watching a game with your children or your grandchildren playing football, or catching up with former colleagues on LinkedIn. And sooner or later, someone will say it. I don't think I can do this until I'm 67. 10 years ago, that conversation was usually about pensions or investments. Today, it feels very different. People aren't asking whether they can afford to retire. They're asking whether they can afford not to. Now, before anyone rushes into any kind of conclusions, this isn't a video about giving up on your work. It isn't about becoming financially dependent by 35, living in a van, or spending your afternoons learning pottery because someone on Instagram told you that's what freedom looks like. This is about something much deeper. Because after speaking to many people over the last couple of years, I've realized that when people over 50 say they want to retire early, retirement isn't actually what they're chasing. They are chasing something they've gradually lost without ever noticing. Today, I want to explain what that is, and I think it comes down to three reasons that almost every Gen Xer will recognize. Before we get into them though, let's remind ourselves who Generation X actually is. Well, we are the generation that grew up without mobile phones, without Google, and without social media telling us what everyone else was doing every 5 minutes. We learned to entertain ourselves. We solved problems without searching for the answer online. We were expected to get on with things, work hard, keep our heads down, and build a career because that's what success looked like back then. For many of us, that strategy worked. We built careers, we bought houses, we raised families, and became the dependable people everyone turns to when something needs sorting out. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Not in us, but in work itself. And that's where the story really starts. So, the reason one is work stopped feeling rewarding. I honestly don't believe that most people over 50 are tired of working. I think they're tired of the way work has changed. When I first started my career, work wasn't perfect. There were difficult managers, office politics, and impossible deadlines, just as there are today. But there was also a feeling that if you worked hard, became good at what you did, and stayed loyal, you'd build something worthwhile over time. The contract feels broken today. Today, many experienced professionals spend more time updating systems than using their expertise. We sit through endless Teams meetings where nobody seems willing to make a decision. We complete mandatory training that feels identical to the course we completed last year or the year before. We measure productivity by how busy our calendars look rather than by what we've actually achieved. If you've ever spent an entire day jumping from meeting to meeting only to finish wondering what you actually accomplished, you'll know exactly what I mean. The frustrating part isn't the workload, it's the lack of meaning. As you get older, your tolerance for pointless work drops dramatically. When you're 25, you put up with it because you're building your career. At 55, you've got enough experience to recognize the difference between valuable work and unnecessary noise. And that's why so many people start thinking about retirement. Not because they're frightened of working, but because they're exhausted by everything surrounding that work. Reason number two, we see time differently now. I think something happens when you reach your 50s that nobody really prepares you for. You stop assuming you've got unlimited time. That sounds obvious, but it changes the way you look at almost everything. When you're 30, 5 years feels like nothing. You assume there's always going to be another opportunity, another holiday, another promotion, and another chance to spend more time with the people that you care about. By the time you're 50, you realize life doesn't work like that. You've watched parents get older. Some of you lost friends. Many of us have experienced redundancy, health scares, or more life changes that remind us that life can change far quicker than we ever imagined. You begin asking different questions. Instead of asking, how can I earn another £10,000 or another $10,000? You ask, how many healthy years have I actually got left? Instead of wondering whether you'll get promoted, you wonder whether missing another summer with your family is really worth it. That's a profound shift. It's not pessimistic, it's realistic. Gen X has reached the stage of life where time has become more valuable than status. We don't necessarily want a bigger office. We'd rather enjoy another afternoon with our children before they move away. We don't dream about becoming senior vice president. We dream about having enough freedom to go for a long walk on a Wednesday afternoon without checking whether someone has put something in our calendar. Those dreams aren't about retirement. They're about reclaiming ownership of our lives. Reason number 3, we don't want to stop working. We want choice. This is probably the biggest misconception of all. People hear someone in their 50s talking about retiring early, and immediately they assume they're becoming lazy. It's the honest truth. And I personally don't buy that for a second. Generation X has worked for nearly 3 decades. We've adapted to new technology countless times. We've survived recessions. Many of us have been made redundant more than once. We've retrained. We reinvented ourselves and kept going because that's what our generation has always done. This isn't laziness, that's what I call resilience. So why does retirement sound appealing? Because what we're really looking for isn't the end of work, it's the end of obligation. Imagine waking up one Monday morning. Okay, I want you to do this. Just close your eyes and imagine you're waking up on a Monday morning and only you decide whether you want to work that day. Not because your mortgage depends on it, not because your employer expects you to work, but because you've chosen to. That's a completely different relationship with work. I genuinely believe that most Gen Xers would continue doing something productive. There's no doubt in my mind. We could mentor people, consult, volunteer, build some business on the side, travel, create, and learn and keep learning. The difference is we'd be doing it because it mattered to us rather than because somebody else has filled our diary. That's what I call freedom. And freedom has become far more attractive than retirement itself. So what do we do? That's the big question. If any of this resonates with you, I don't think the answer is handing your notice in next week. For most people, that's neither practical, of course, and nor sensible. The better question is this: what small steps can you start taking today that give you more choices 5 years from now? Maybe that's building a side income. Maybe it's learning AI so your experience becomes even more valuable. Maybe it's paying down debt faster. Maybe it's investing more consistently. Maybe it's starting a YouTube channel that you've talked about for years. Whatever it is, the goal shouldn't simply be to stop working. The goal should be to reduce the gap between the life you're living today and the life you'd actually choose if money wasn't the deciding factor. Because every step you take towards financial independence isn't really buying retirement, it's buying options. And options are incredibly powerful. The more I think about this subject, the more convinced I become that Gen X doesn't have a retirement problem. We have a meaning problem. We've spent decades doing what responsible adults are supposed to do. We've worked extremely hard. We paid our mortgages. We raised our families. We looked after aging parents and carried responsibilities without making too much fuss about it. Now we've reached a stage in our life where we're asking a perfectly reasonable question. If I've done everything I was supposed to do, when do I get to decide what my own life looks like? That's not selfish, and it's not laziness. And it certainly isn't midlife crisis, as many people want to call it. It's the natural consequence of reaching an age where you understand something you couldn't fully appreciate in your 20s. Money matters, but time matters more. The real reason Gen X wants to retire early isn't because we've fallen out of love with work. It's because we've finally fallen in love with the idea of owning our own time again. And perhaps that's what retirement should have meant all along. If this video resonated with you, I genuinely would like to hear your thoughts. Are you thinking about retiring early, or are you really searching for more freedom and control over your life? Let me know in the comments, because I have a feeling many more people are wrestling with this than we realize. Until next time, stay happy, stay focused, stay well.